around press trips, what's expected, what's not expected. Maybe British company, or Kemp, you want to jump in?
Yeah, we have a lot of visiting travelers head in that are writing stories. So that's a given. But to be more specific, I mean, we really do try very hard to match the kind of activities with the kind of interest, because as you're saying, I mean, you know, if we don't do that, then we're not getting our job done right. You know, it's not going to appear in print properly or online properly, and, you know, nobody wins. So we really basically try and kind of do a little bit of everything for a little bit of everybody. Although I have to say, it's so funny because last week I was actually hosting a group of travel writers in Victoria, and we gave them basically at least a full day on their own. We had a number of kind of optional activities. And darn if every single one of them didn't do every single one of the optional activities and end up with like an 18-hour day with 5 meals, and, you know, like, it was crazy. I was like, I don't think I'd do this, but, you know, there is a level of excitement when you're on the road and you want to see, you're in a new place and you want to see everything and do everything, and know you still have to kind of get the story at the end of the day, you know, back in your hotel room and stuff like that. But you know, so we'll kind of try as much as possible to take our cues from you. We generally try and kind of, with some of the newer product that we might have, so if there's a new hotel that's opened up in the Okanagan, for example, or there's some neat things happening in the Carrickwood-Colton, we'll do a group press trip and we'll really actively head out and, you know, find folks that are a good match for that. And then there are other times where it's much more, and I would say this is more like 90% of the time, where we really do create an itinerary that's very specific to a given journalist and what they're looking for.
I just want to add that I've actually done some stuff with Canada, and they've given us plenty of room. It's been really great. Plenty of room. The itineraries are open, they're tailored, there's stuff that I want to do, and the schedules have been like, go and meet this guy. Here's a guy you should go meet. It'll be really interesting. And that's pretty much as the experience has been controlled. And that's really my preference, is that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and maybe if you would, Rene, if you want to touch on that, but also maybe on expenses and things like tipping and some of those, I mean, I don't know, with press trips, like those kinds of things. If you've never been on a press trip, for example, you know, most press trips, you should always ask the question, am I covering are tips included, or do I need to cover tips? You know, those kinds of questions. If any insight that you guys can give on some specific things for people who've never done it before.
Well, let me first touch on the word press trips. We very rarely do press trips anymore. I didn't believe in them 15, 20 years ago because I thought they herded people around and made them, no offense, slog through hotels and look at hotels and treat them like they were travel agents. And we found very early on the best stories were when we said, you're an adult, act like an adult, go enjoy the city, go enjoy the country, tell us what you want to do, who you want to meet, we'll see you for drinks at 7:30, tell us what you did. And that's how we run things. We do a lot more individual visits these days because it's economically viable, and quite honestly, we get better stories out of it. It is about customization. But when we still do the occasional group trip, and I'll speak freely, I do not want to be, nor do my staff want to be your babysitters. We don't want to be your chaperones. We don't want to police you. We'd like some time to ourselves as well. So we find that the best trips, the best experiences factor in the unexpected, and the best part of a trip to Paris can literally be sitting in a cafe and, you know, having a coffee or a beer. You're not going to see that on an organized press trip. So the freedom to discover and the freedom to make mistakes and the freedom to recklessly abandon an itinerary and go off on your own, I think is what makes, again, great stories. We do herd everyone back usually in the evening or for breakfast, just so we have a head count. But what you find, instead of having a bunch of exhausted people, you have 3 or 5 or 10 people who have wildly different experiences and now are selling stories among themselves over dinner. And that to me is a great trip. As far as the business side of it, you should ask a lot of questions. It's a business agreement at the end of the day, or an unwritten business agreement. You should ask who's paying for your room, who's paying for your tips, are they included? Some clients take care of tips, like the hotels and the cruise lines usually, take care of their employees and don't expect you to pay for it. Some will provide breakfast, but not meals. I think you have a legitimate right to ask what is being provided, so that you know exactly what your expenses are and there's no surprises. And when there's no surprises on your part, there's no angst on our part, and everyone gets along very well. But honestly, you should be able to ask any PR question, any question you want, and if they don't come back to you with an answer, then they're not a good PR person.
Amy, do you have any?